Hey, what's up? How's it going? Just the Sunday check-in. That's the new thing. Every time I want to vent on camera, this is where I'll do it. Sundays, for the most part. But it's been a fucking good week, for the most part. And life's going good. Works well. Finally like cooking more often. So I'm like cooking for a living, so to speak. You know what I mean? To pay the rent, pay the bills, get some food, pay the fucking hydro, pay the fucking, internet bill, all that shit. Getting all that stuff just from cooking. So it feels like a good thing, Like it's cooking doesn't feel really like a job because of the aroma, and there's somewhat of a rewarding feeling that I get from filling up other people's stomachs and stuff like that, even though some people don't really see it as whatever, you know what I mean? Like cooking's not like building a hospital or anything like that, but cooking will pay the bills, and I'm enjoying that part about cooking at least. So that part's going awesome. I like business life. That's going awesome. That's great. And as for like gambling, I have that under control. Like whenever people look at my videos and like they look at the gambling videos that I have, they're like, oh wow, this guy like wins a lot of money or blah blah blah, or spends a lot of money and all that shit. It's more like what am I trying to say here? When it comes to like sports gambling, even though it looks like I might be winning a lot of money, when you add it all up, you add what I gamble and you add what I win, I'm only at like $200 profit for like sports betting overall. So I'm really grinding that out, and it's not really like something that I can turn in. Well, I could turn it into a career potentially, but I know that gambling is more of like a pastime. It's a hobby, for the most part. So I'm not going to like just quit my livelihood kind of job to become a pro gambler yet. Maybe one day I can, but ultimately I got to stop saying ultimately so fucking much. But I know that I can't really just depend on gambling, right? Like it's like that whole thing where it's building a house on sand, and building your house on a sand means that your house isn't on a strong foundation. So, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You can't really gamble for a living unless you're like really, really good at it. I'm really, really lucky at it, all that shit. There are professional gamblers in the world. So, one day that'd be so sweet to become a professional gambler, but ultimately I'm not really but I'm not really depending on that to pay my bills, even though it has paid some of my bills. So I'll keep doing my gambling, keeping it as a hobby, but I'll also keep working. And today I get my daughter, so I'll be spoiling her today with any of the fucking funds that I've made overall, so it does even out overall, and I do, spoil the babies that I do get to see, and I get to see Lavina, so I get to spoil Lavina today, which is awesome. And, life's going good in that, like, parenthood aspect and that business part aspect. And like, as for bullies, like I won against Justin. Clearly. Like I fucking won against the guy. He's the one who threatened me, and then he gave up on his threats and shit like that after he realized that I'm not a fucking pushover. And, after he realized that he's a little bitch, Justin's a little bitch, as far as that goes, like trying to fucking rat me out and shit like that. If I fucking hurt the guy, he would have ratted me out, all that shit. So it's a whole big fucking thing, can of worms. When we see each other again in person, it's either we'll fight or we won't. One or the other. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't really care. He knows that he couldn't fucking do shit. He couldn't pass my long guard. He knows I was ready for him. So, it is what it is. We're both talented fighters, and that's just the way life is. Like, that's why our bloodlines have succeeded this far in life. If we weren't talented fighters, then our bloodline wouldn't have got so far. Like, his parents are fighters. My parents are fighters. We're survivors. We're thrivers. We're here to fucking live and kind of keep going and continue on the bloodline and all that stuff, So I respect that about him to a certain extent, but he's still a bitch for calling me out and then like threatening to rat me out if I do anything about it. So it's like, it was kind of fucked up. I don't know. Anyways, that's enough about that whole Osterbeck situation. Like, it is what it is. I invited him to fight in the ring. He wouldn't do it, so it's like I won that shit, whatever, it's all good. And then my fight in the ring, still planning on doing that. I'm just gonna show up at my friend's house one day in June and be like, okay, today's fight day, around my birthday kind of thing, and film it. And if he says yes on that day, then we'll fight and we'll film it. And then if he says no on that day, then whatever, but ultimately that's the plan with that boxing bout. And it's a backyard boxing bout. We're going old school on this one. And just it's really good. Like, I love my life. I have a good life going on here. And one of the things is I kind of owe it to Sydney to a certain extent. Like Sydney framing me. If Sydney didn't frame me, we would still be going off and on, fucking every now and then and stuff like that. We'd go off and on, off and on. And even though it'd be super rewarding to raise Cameron with her, and it'd be super rewarding to teach my daughter all the things that she needs to know in life, which is everything, because she's just a baby right now. And like, even though that would be like super rewarding, like, if it wasn't for the fact that she fucking framed me, lied to the cops, lied to the crown, lied to her grandmother, lied to her mother, lied to everybody, basically. She fucking lied to me about, like, all the people that she said she slept with or whatever, you know, like, for the most part. Anyway, she just, like, really fucked with my head a lot. But, like, ultimately, there's that word again, ultimately. But, you know, for the most part, everything worked out for the best, you know? I was, like, super worried when her grandmother wrongfully fucking, you know, evicted me from the merch. I loved living at the merch. I was like, you know, this doesn't get any better as far as, like, rent money goes. And, like, I was somewhat right for that. Like, rent money wise, the merch was a really great place to live. And, you know, like, my neighbors, I considered my neighbors friends. You know, like, one of them was like an auntie to me. And, like, the other was, like, just a bro, you know what I mean? Next door neighbor. Hey, man. And he comes over once in a while, borrows a couple bucks or something like that. No problem. You know, no problem. I never asked for any of that money back or anything like that. I was just doing the neighborly thing, right? Like, I was a good neighbor. But the fact that she said that, you know, Cheryl lied, said that, like, the neighbors were scared of me. Cheryl lied, said that I threatened staff and shit like that. You know, that turned into a godsend. You know, that turned into a blessing. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of somewhat miserable at the merch because wasn't a whole lot of space to do a whole lot of things. And then, you know, after Cheryl wrongfully evicted me, I found my new place, which is totally fucking awesome. You know, that's why I have the power rack in the living room. I have my own fucking couch and fucking love seat that I bought. Thanks, gambling. And, you know, I got things going. Like, things are going well in my life. And I owe that a lot to Sydney framing me and her grandmother fucking wrongfully evicting me. So, I mean, how mad can I be at that? Like, I'm actually thankful it happened overall. Like, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody, though. Like the stuff that they've done to me. Sydney telling me that she aborted our daughter, and then having our daughter, and then blaming me for, like, why weren't you there for our daughter's birth, you asshole? You know, like, that kind of shit. Like, she didn't say that, but she implied that, which was like, it was so hard for me to have. I was like, I know it's hard to have the labor. Like, I will never know what labor is, but, like, I know it's hard if a woman has to go through that labor stuff by herself. But my first two baby mothers, the first two women that I had babies with, I was there for the birth of our child. Like, I was there to cut the cord for Drayton. I was there to cut the cord for Lavina. I would have been there to cut the cord for Cameron, but I was under the impression that Cameron was aborted because that's what Darian, Chief, Sydney told me, right? So it's like, what am I supposed to do? Go back in time and just, you know, like, be like, hey, are you having our daughter? You know, like, I don't know. I can't fucking go back in time and do that shit. And I've already thought about this, said this before. The furthest I can go back in time, if such a thing were ever fucking possible, is to Cam's birthday, because I couldn't risk her not being born. She's too fucking special and important to me, and I love her way too much to even risk her not being born ever. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So, as far as, like, us having a baby together, meant to be. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You know, people try to put me down about it in regards to, like, you know, like Sydney's mom or whatever, Sydney's grandma or whatever. Like, they try to put me down for it, but it's like, you know, if Cameron's mine, then Cameron is this. You know what I mean? Like, Cameron is me if Cameron's mine. And therefore, I think we both got to learn to be thankful for that. Like, for example, even though I think that Sydney is a pathological liar and that kind of fucking personality could pass on to our child Cameron, I know that to be the kind of liar that Sydney is, the one who, like, designs it, the one who, like, freaking, like, fucks with everybody's mind, the one who pretty much got away with lying to the cops and all that stuff, like, that takes really critical and divisive thinking. So the critical problem solving skills that Sydney kind of has, that she applies to her lies and all that stuff, hopefully that kind of critical thinking and problem solving kind of carries on to Cameron. So I know that, or I feel that Cameron will be really intelligent with my kind of mind and Sydney's mind together. All we got to do is make sure that Cameron, you know, tells the truth, is a good person, and, you know, like, a better version of myself and a better version of Darian, you know, like, all in one, both of us, you know, like, that's how I feel anyway. We should have to raise Cameron in the long run, and that's sort of what we're doing, you know. You know, like, even though I don't get to see Cameron until I get the lawyers happening, and that's just sort of the baby mother's choice, you know. Oh, look at that eagle over there. I don't know if you can see that eagle, but it's flying around. There's a nest right over there. If you're ever in Selkirk, the bridge is just right, yeah, and then the fucking nest is right, yeah. But yeah, like, as far as like raising my babies go, though, like, you know, it's up to their mothers. Like, today I get my daughter Lavina. I am super grateful, super thankful to get my daughter Lavina, and then, as for Drayton and Cameron, that is completely up to their mothers, whether or not we co-parent, whether or not we be friends, whether or not we be civil. That's all up to them, because I'm ready to be friends, I'm ready to be civil, I'm ready to co-parent, and, You know what I mean? Like, they could look at me and be like, oh, I hate him. I wish I blah, 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 never had babies with him. It's like, well, you wish you never had Drayden. You wish you never had Cameron. I doubt that. But ultimately, like, they were the ones who fucked me. You know, like, Barbara fucked me multiple times, and then we had a miscarriage, and then we had Drayden afterwards. So that shows intent to have a family, and she was the one promising me a family. And then, like, you know, Darian was the one who asked me for a baby. So I proudly said yes, and I'm still proud of that decision. I wouldn't trade that for the world, even though the way things are, I feel kind of screwed over. But, you know, we can still be a family today. That's sort of how it goes. Like Roxanne and I, we can still be a family today. Definitely her and I can. And like Barbara and I can. But ultimately, but the way things are, you know, it's up to them. It's up to their mothers. You know what I mean? A family, like, to be married for like 50 fucking years, that takes forcing it. That takes hard work and dedication. Like every fucking marriage that has lasted for 50 years, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 1 year, whatever it takes. Like, you know, a lot of the times it takes forcing it. A lot of the times it takes forcing a level of forgiveness that a lot of people can't fathom, which is why like 50% of like, you know, marriages and all that shit end in like divorce. But, you know, that's just the way life is. I'm thankful for the way things are going. And again, thankful for my job. Thank you, God, for my babies. And I love my baby mothers. But anyways, thank you for listening. And I hope that you have a good new week. It's a good Sunday. And y'all take care. Respect.